Good morning friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel Medical Classes by Dr. Srinidhi Kumar Acharya. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and also please give the valuable comments. You can also visit the playlist, and in the playlist I have provided almost all the topics in a very systematic order. I hope this will be very convenient for the continuous study. My dear friends, today onwards we will going to start a new series of lectures, and that new series of lecture is related to puberty and pubertal problems. So especially in the puberty related problems and as well as the precocious puberty, and we shall see also some of the common case based discussion. I hope this will be very interesting. So in the first class today, so I will going to give some of the basic information regarding puberty, because before understanding the pubertal problems, precocious puberty and so many other pubertal problems, hormonal problems, etc., the basics of the puberty is very important. What actually happens at the time of the birth, what do you mean by the mini puberty, and what do you mean by pubertal axis? These things plays a very important role, and we should also know to differentiate between the central cause of the puberty and the peripheral cause of the puberty and related problems. Now let us start with the basics. Puberty. Yes, usually we know that puberty problems are equal in male and female, but it is more recognized in case of females. Okay, so that means in the community it will be a major problem as far as female is concerned. Otherwise puberty problems will be there in the male and female both. Usually, so therefore we take the female problems first. So usually we know that how the puberty starts. In case of female, puberty basically follows 3 or 4 steps. We know that telarche, there will be adinarche, there will be menarche, and before menarche there will be a growth spurt. These are the 4 stages. First telarche, adinarche, growth spurt, and then there will be menarche. Now telarche occurs usually around the age of 8 years, and this is the breast bud formation. That means breast bud is now get that means a form of the molded to form the shape of the nipple and just elevated from the rest of the breast tissue. So this is considered as the first stage of puberty. Usually it starts by 8 to 9 years. 8 to 9 years means when the child is at the age of child maybe in the 3rd class or 4th standard. Okay, so now this will be followed by adinarche. Adinarche means it is nothing but development of the pubic and as well as axillary hairs. So this usually happens in 9 to 10 years. So when there is breast bud formation is there, that suggests that the prolactin, estrogen, progesterone, prolactin, etc. So their production is now begun. And similarly, when there is adinarche, that suggests that now the adrenal glands are get activated to produce the androgen and all those things. And this will be followed by the growth spurt. Growth spurt means after this there will be sudden increase in. That means there is increase in the height of the child, female child. Okay. So there will be a growth spurt. Sudden there is increase in the height of the child. So this will be about 11 years or 12 years. Now after 12 years, the female child will have menarche, and usually the range is 12 to 14 years. Okay, menarche indicates that ovary is get stimulated. Okay, now ovary is active and it is now ready to produce the estrogen and progesterone and all those things. So this is actually the different phases of puberty as observed in female kids. So what we have to understand is, before understanding the pathology, these changes are always occurring in a sequence. Okay, in a normal child, female child, you cannot get the menarche first, adinarche first, telarche at the end. This sequence is not possible. If everything is normal, this sequence will be in a order. What is that? Telarche, adinarche, growth spurt, and menarche. Okay, and if this sequence is not normal, abnormal, then we can suspect some of the issues related to the development of the puberty. Now these puberty changes which occur due to certain central causes and also certain peripheral causes. The changes which is occurring, for example, adenarche is there, there is menarche is there. Now these changes are there. Similarly, breast bud formation is there. So now these changes are both centrally mediated and as well as peripherally mediated. When I say centrally mediated by the pituitary gland, and when I say it is peripherally mediated, peripherally means either it is mediated through the adrenal gland or the ovary. Okay, so therefore puberty is a transitional phase. Puberty means it's a transitional phase from a non-pubertal stage to the puberty stage. So usually puberty is that stage when a non-pubertal stage is get converted into the pubertal stage. And once this particular puberty is over, then there is completely matured sexual organs and completely active sexual hormones and active ovary, and also the the adrenal gland will be there. So we should understand that this period of the puberty or adolescence period, what we say, that is actually the period where a non-pubertal stage is getting converted into the pubertal stage, and thereafter that particular child or female, so she is ready for the reproductive activities. Now this is very important to understand before going to the puberty and related disorders. There is a normal HPG axis. What I mean to say, HPG axis is hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. Okay. Now there is an axis, there is a connection between the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is further connected with the hypothalamus. Actually the things will start from the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus connected with the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is connected with the gonads, that's adrenals, etc. Gonads. So this axis is there. When you observe the breastfeeding, in the breastfeeding also we will have HPM axis. That means hypothalamus pituitary mammary axis. So similarly in case of puberty, we will have hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis. So these are interconnected. And this is very important and responsible factor for development of the sequential changes. Suppose the puberty changes should occur in a sequence or order, then this axis should be normal. If there is any problem in this axis, the pubertal changes will not take place in an order. Let us see. The hypothalamus, basically we know that it produces the gonadotropin secreting hormone, which has the gonadotropin secreting hormone. Basically it is produced from the hypothalamus. Later it comes to the pituitary gland and stored there. So how it reaches the pituitary gland? So there is a small portal system is there. Through that portal system, these particular secretions which are produced from the hypothalamus, they enter into the pituitary gland and stored there. And in the pituitary gland, we will have the gonadotropin cell, just like thyroglobin cells, okay, somatostatin cells. So many somatostatin cell is for the growth hormone. Thyroglobulin, that cells is there for the thyroid hormone. Similarly, for this particular gonadotropin hormone, we will have a gonadotropin cells. Okay, so we have gonadotropin cells in the pituitary. Now these hormones, they come and start activating this gonadotrophic cell of the pituitary gland, and these gonadotrophic cells of the pituitary gland, now they will produce two important hormones. One is luteinizing hormone and another one is a follicular cell stimulating hormone. Okay, so luteinizing hormone is basically with the breast, and follicular cell stimulating hormone basically going to act on the gonads. Okay, now later this will be going to act on the gonads like ovary and the testes, especially follicular cell stimulating hormone, which brings the sequential changes. So to have the sequential changes in the puberty period, all these things should be normal. Hypothalamus should be normal, pituitary should be normal, pituitary cells should be normal. Okay, their activation should be normal. Their target areas like gonads and the ovary, that should be normal. Production of the LH and FSH should be normal. I hope you understand. Now we can identify number of cases which are nowadays we can identify where there is hypogonadism is there. Hypogonadism is there. Gonads are not properly activated. Gonads are not properly formed, gonads are not properly stimulated. Okay, so this hypogonadotrophin status, so which is previously called as idiopathic hypogonadism. Previously, because we are not able to identify all these changes which is taking place in the central, like hypothalamic changes, then pituitary changes, because of the lack of the advancement. So nowadays we are able to identify such cases by means of CT scan, MRI, etc. Whether the pituitary gland is normal, its activity is normal, we can identify it. So previously we have got a lot of cases of hypogonadism. That means ovary and testis is not properly get developed, cause is not known. In those time it is called as idiopathic hypogonadism. But nowadays we have got advancement in the technology and we are able to identify these causes of a hypogonadism which was previously called as idiopathic. But now it is identified to that some of the neurons which are present in the hypothalamus, which are G protein coupled, like Kiss protein, etc. We will discuss it later. So they are responsible for that. Okay, anyway, so these proteins will trigger and control the pulsatile release of the gonadotrophin. Now this is very important. G protein coupled proteins. Okay, there are proteins which are present in the hypothalamus. Okay, in the hypothalamic area there are certain proteins, and these proteins are G protein coupled. The receptor action, you come to know about these G proteins. So they are G protein coupled neurons or receptors, and which are they are also called as Kiss proteins. Now what is the importance of this G protein coupled or Kiss protein is they are actually responsible for the release of the gonadotrophin in a pulsatile manner. Now again we have got two important things. One is continuous release of the gonadotrophin and another one is pulsatile release of the gonadotrophin. Okay, now you concentrate on this particular point. Now what is this continuous release of the gonadotrophin and what is this pulsatile release of the gonadotrophin? Now from the birth there is production of the gonadotrophin. Actually talking from the birth itself there is production of the gonadotrophin, okay, releasing hormones, gonadotrophin releasing hormones, but only when they are produced in a pulsatile manner it brings the pubertal changes. Now this is very, very important. It is not like that gonadotrophin is produced only during the puberty. No, from the birth itself, from the fetal stage itself, the gonadotrophin production will be there. But thing is, in that time they are produced in a very slow phase but in a continuous way. Okay, when this gonadotrophin is produced in a continuous way in the slow phase, it is not able to bring the pubertal changes. That means it is not able to act on the target organs like ovary and gonads. Okay, gonads, ovary and gonads and adrenals, etc. But if it is produced in a pulsatile manner, then only it is able to bring the pubertal changes. Now this is very important point. How this is possible and why this happens, that we will see. But normally in childhood period the pulsatile release is not happening. I told that gonadotrophin hormone is continuously produced, but only thing is it is not produced pulsatile way. It is continuously produced. But this continuous production of the gonadotrophin is not able to bring any type of pubertal changes. Hence, although there is release of the gonadotrophin, production of the gonadotrophin in the infantile period and then in the childhood period, there is no puberty changes. There is no puberty changes. But during the pubertal age, this gonadotrophin which was previously continuously producing start producing in a pulsatile way. Pulsatile means chod karke, episode matlab with a gap. Okay, in a pulsatile way, and this brings the pubertal changes. Repeatedly I am telling this, but how? This brings the pubertal changes. So there are many such factors which will go into regulate the pulsatile release of the GnRH. Okay, that means as the child approaches to the puberty, many factors are acting and influencing on this GnRH, which make the GnRH to produce in a pulsatile way, which is previously continuously producing. Now there are many factors coming and influencing it and compelling it to produce in a pulsatile way, so that puberty changes will occur. Now if this is not happening, suppose due to some of the problems, one or the other problems, again we cannot expect the normal puberty changes. So to look into the details, actually during the fetal stage, what actually happens? During the fetal stage, HVG axis is matured. Even in the fetal stage itself, this hypothalamic pituitary gonadotrophic axis is activated or matured, usually after 16 to 18th weeks of gestational period. 16 to 18 weeks means almost all around 4 to 5 months. 4 to 5 months, this axis is activated. And it also starts producing the gonadotrophic hormone. See, in the puberty, in the fetal stage itself, gonadotrophin hormone is producing. This acts on the gonads of the fetus. Even this gonadotrophin acts on the fetal testes or fetal ovary to produce the sex hormones. Although these organs are immature, that's the problem. Organs are totally immature because it's a very rudimentary state, isn't it? But gonadotrophin hormone is keep on producing there also after 16th or 20th week or 18th week. But the problem is, luckily, the organs are immature. Organs are immature, therefore they are not able to produce their action. Hormone is there. But this is the feedback mechanism. That means organs are not utilizing this gonadotrophin hormone. So level of the gonadotrophin hormone increases in the blood. Now this increased level of the gonadotrophin hormone in the blood, this gives a feedback mechanism to the pituitary gland or hypothalamus. Okay, so what is that? I am there in the blood but nobody utilizing it. So please reduce the production. This is the feedback. Why these are not utilizing? Because the gonad itself is immature. It is not in a position because it is not matured enough. So therefore the level of the gonadotrophin is increasing in the blood, and that gives a feedback mechanism to the CNS, and which normally controls the level of the GnRH is not functional because of immaturity of the CNS and myelination tracts. But this is the feedback mechanism which is normally controls the level of the GnRH. Okay, but actually in the fetal stage what happens? In the fetal stage, to carry this feedback message to the brain, there should be some system, is a neurological system is there. Even the neurological system existing in the fetal stage around the age of 5 months, 6 months or whatever that age, that is also immature. That feedback is also not properly or not at all carried to the CNS to stop the production of the gonadotrophin because it is not utilized. So there is no feedback reaching the CNS, and also in the blood GnRH level is increasing, and even the target tissues like the gonads are also not utilizing it. So what happens? There is continuous production of the gonadotrophin and there is raised level of the gonadotrophin in the blood, although it is not utilized. I hope it is very clear. So why CNS is not active? Because myelination is not complete. So the neurons are not completely matured. Therefore feedback is not reaching the CNS. So normally we will say during the fetal stage GnRH levels are very high. Why it is high? It is high because of these two reasons. Target organs are not utilizing it and feedback mechanism is not reaching the CNS. But what actually happens during the third trimester? When the fetus reaches the third trimester, there is uteroplacental unit, isn't it? There is a uterus and placental unit is there. So during the third trimester, this unit becomes more and more functional. It is more and more functional, and we know that when the uteroplacental unit is more and more functional, it produces some of the hormones, and especially it produces estrogen. Placenta produces estrogen. Estrogen is also produced from the placenta. I think you know that. So now the scenario will going to change. In the third trimester, when the placenta start producing the estrogen is basically produced from the ovary, isn't it? Presently it is produced from the placenta, but this estrogen is there in the blood now, from which is coming from the placenta. So now this will mediate the negative feedback mechanism. Okay, this will going to mediate the negative feedback. So far the feedback was not reaching the CNS because of various problems, but now what happens? Estrogen is produced. Estrogen is actually, see, estrogen has to be produced from the ovary. GnRH is produced. GnRH should produce LH and follicular stimulating hormone. So that should activate on the that should act on the ovary. Ovary should produce the estrogen, and if the ovary is producing the estrogen, estrogen level will go into rise, and that is a negative feedback system or feedback system for the CNS. Enough estrogen is produced, now you stop gonadotrophin. But in this case, what happens? Ovary is not producing any estrogen, but instead in the third trimester, placenta start producing the estrogen. Now estrogen is produced from anywhere, whatever may be the case, it is produced and it is there in the blood. Now this estrogen gives a message to the CNS, yes, I have produced here, a lot of amount of estrogen is there. Now you can stop producing the GnRH. Okay. So now this will mediate the negative feedback system mechanism on GnRH neurons, and when the baby is born, therefore when the baby is born, the GnRH levels are not so high. In the fetal stage, GnRH level is very high. But as soon as it enters into the third trimester, placenta start producing the estrogen, and CNS think that our ovary only produce the estrogen, and now this message is given there. There is enough estrogen is there in the blood. Now CNS stop producing more amount of gonadotrophin. As a result, at the time of the birth, there is no enough there is more production of the GnRH. It is not so high. GnRH production is there, but it is not so high. So once the baby is born, now again the scenario change. Once the baby is born, the maternal estrogen is withdrawn, isn't it? The baby is born now. So far fetus is getting estrogen from where? From the mother side, isn't it? From the placenta. The placenta itself is not there now after birth. So who will going to produce the estrogen now? And who will give the negative feedback system there? So once the baby is born, the maternal estrogen is withdrawn. And during the neonatal period, what happens? Again the GnRH levels will go into rise. This is the cause. Okay. So this is the cause why during the neonatal period, again the GnRH levels are production is high. It is a similar situation in the first and second trimester. The scenario change in the third trimester when placenta start producing estrogen and birth taken place, and afterward there is no placenta, no maternal connection at all, so no estrogen in the neonatal body. Okay, so again the same condition, there is no feedback system, and GnRH is producing in a similar phase as usual. Okay, so neonatal period, again the GnRH levels will go into rise in a pulsatile manner, and levels are almost all high and equal to that of the puberty stage. Okay, so now the levels, they are telling that it is producing in a pulsatile manner also, not only continuous, pulsatile manner also, and therefore the level of the gonadotrophin is almost equal to that of the puberty. Therefore, this state of this neonatal state or infantile state, it is also called as mini puberty. That's the reason why it is called as mini puberty, which occurs around 9 months in males and maybe up to 2 years in case of females. Okay, so infantile period after 9 months, it is also up to 9 months, it is also called as mini puberty stage. The reason is, just like puberty, the gonadotrophin levels are very, very high, and at times it also produces the this gonadotrophin just like the puberty in a pulsatile manner. Now again the things will go to change. Once the CNS tracts are mature, after 1 year or 2 years, the CNS tracts are very much mature, isn't it? So again, just like in the third trimester, the feedback system again start. That means in the blood there is lot of amount of the estrogen, gonadotrophin is there, but it is not utilized by the target cell like gonads. Now as the CNS tracts become mature by the age of 2 years or 1 year or 2 years, now this message has been now effectively carried to the CNS. Negative feedback. No, you don't produce gonadotrophin because nobody is using here. The tracts are matured now, so they will carry the message back to the CNS, and this result in the stoppage of the pulsatile secretion of the gonadotrophin. So once there is a mini puberty, after mini puberty, again there will be stoppage of this gonadotrophin production. So in the juvenile phase, the amount of the GnRH is very less. So this what happens after 2 years, after 2 years the GnRH level will come down because now the CNS is matured and the feedback system is very perfect. Okay. Now later in the puberty, एक बार यहाँ पे जो बंद हुआ 2 साल में या 2 साल में जो बंद हुआ, उसके बाद अब जब वो puberty में आ गया, so later during the time of the puberty, again the secretion of the GnRH starts. And now this time its production is totally pulsatile, and this time its production will bring the puberty changes because the gonads are also matured and they're able to receive the GnRH इन द पल्सटाइल वे, जितना चाहिए उतना यूज़ कर सकता है. तो जैसा जैसा उसका यूज़ होगा वैसा वैसा गोनाडोट्रोफिन का रिलीज होगा. ऐसा नहीं है कि कंटिन्यूसली वो प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है. देयरफॉर पल्सटाइल रिलीज इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. पल्सटाइल रिलीज इज ओनली पॉसिबल व्हेन द टारगेट ऑर्गन इज यूटिलाइजिंग दैट पर्टिकुलर हार्मोन. सो बट इफ दिस ऑकर्स इन द जुवेनाइल पीरियड इटसेल्फ, जुवेनाइल पीरियड में जो है कोई प्यूबर्टी चेंज नहीं आना चाहिए. 2 साल से लेकर के 10 साल तक, कोई 8 साल तक जो भी प्यूबर्टी चेंज शुड नॉट बी देयर. But if it occurs, then it is called as precocious puberty. Then it is called as precocious puberty. Okay, so this is the basics of puberty. Before understanding the puberty, we should know this particular part. Otherwise, we cannot understand the puberty properly. Okay, in the next class, we shall see the other portions related to the puberty. Keep on watching. Thank you very much.